You are listening to episode number 59 of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. Today we're going to be talking about QSL Cards and Services. We're going to talk about some upcoming events and contests, as well as some hamfests for the next 2 weeks. We're talking about some blog posts that I found over the past week or so. And we're going to wrap it up with a little bit of news from around the hobby. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. My name is Curtis, my call sign is Kilo 5 Charlie Lima Mike, and this is the Everything Ham Radio podcast. This podcast is released every Thursday for your listening pleasure. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Everything Ham Radio. I have a group at facebook.com/groups/Everything Ham Radio. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Everything Ham Radio. And on Twitter at K5CLM. The show notes for today are going to have some extra information as well as some links and stuff like that we're going to be talking about. And you can find those at everythinghamradio.com/podcast/59. That's the number 59. So, what are we talking about today? Like I said, we're going to talk about some QSL cards and services. But before we do that, I wanted to mention one thing. Here it is, episode number 59. And, 9 episodes ago, we had the 50th episode giveaway. And I still have not heard from the winner of the KB6NU ebooks. And I've actually drawn 2 names for it. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I've tried to reach out to the second person that got it, but I still have not heard back from them. So, I guess what I'm going to do, I'm going to try this one more time, and I'm going to do it like I did with the last one. If you are a technician or a general, and you are wanting to upgrade, and you would like to win the ebooks written by Dan Romanchik's KB6NU, shoot me an email, and in that email put upgrade in the subject line. So shoot me an email, k5clm@everythinghamradio.com, put upgrade in the subject line, and I will draw a winner in the next episode, and hopefully get that last prize done. Here it is, 2.5 months almost from the episode 50 original giveaway, and I still have not given that one out. So, and the winner of the N3 FJP, I think it is, software, I do have the winner set for that. Life has been a little hectic, so I hadn't got that sent out, but I will send that out this week. So the winner of that needs to pay attention to the mail, because it's fixing to come, and I might do it in just email. I haven't quite decided yet, but anyways, that is that. So I guess let's go ahead and talk about what we're talking about today, and that is QSL cards and services. Okay, first off, what is a QSL card? Well, according to Wikipedia, a QSL card is a written confirmation of either a two-way radio communication between 2 amateur radio stations or a one-way reception of a signal from an AM, FM, television, or shortwave broadcast station. That's what these things originally started at, as a reception card. And we actually had one that I saw on last week's Amateur Radio Roundtable. And if y'all haven't heard that, it is shown live on Tuesdays at 9 p.m., I believe, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., something like that, Central Time. And you can find more information about that at, what is the address? It is w5kub.com. We're going to talk about a little bit more in the later in the episode when we talk about some blog posts that I found. But anyways, they are simulcast on a shortwave radio station, and they actually got a QSL card from a listener that heard them on shortwave for like 10-15 minutes or something like that. So that's pretty neat that it's still around on more than just amateur radio. But anyways, in years past, a QSL card was required in order to get rewards, or awards, not rewards. Now it's not so much. And basically, in years past, you would make a contact, make a DX contact or something, and if you're trying to get your worked all states, or your worked all counties, or your worked all continents, or your DXCC awards, stuff like that, you would have to send a QSL card to the person you contacted, and they would have to send one back. And once you got all of the QSL cards, then you could make a copy of them, send them to the ARRL or whoever the award thing was through, and that was your proof of your contact or of your award qualifications. One of the major problems with that is let's say that you're trying to get your worked all states, okay? And let's say that maybe you got a contact in, say, Rhode Island, or maybe like Montana or something like that. Something that's either really small, like Rhode Island, or that doesn't have a lot of hams, like maybe Montana. And since they're few and far between or hard to come by, if that person that you made contact with didn't just send you a QSL card, then you're pretty much SOL. You have to make another contact or keep hounding them for confirmation or a QSL card. So that was the major hard part of the paper QSL cards. Nowadays, it's not so much done that way. I mean, a lot of the awards and stuff are done using electronic means. Things like the Logbook of the World through ARRL, or EQSL.cc, stuff like that. And that's how you get your awards. Nowadays, it's more of just like a collector's item, I guess you could say. This is these are the people that I've made contact with, and you have proof of it via QSL card, not just like a paper log or something. So there is still people that do it, and yes, you can do it on just the electronic version. And actually, if you go through eqsl.cc, you can actually make a digital QSL card and actually print it out when you make a contact. So that's kind of cool. But as far as actually sending and receiving QSL cards, yes, it is still done. I don't know how much infrequency it is done, but it is still done. So, and there's actually some people that have a massive amount of QSL cards, or like this big display on their wall showing all 50 states, or whatever, or maybe like the DXC Century Club. The qualifications for that, I think it's like 100 contacts that are in 100 different countries or something like that. So that's kind of cool to actually see the paper proof that you actually made the contacts. So, now it is more electronic than it is paper, but paper is still there. So let's talk a little bit about the history of QSL cards. QSL cards actually predate their use in amateur radio. The first QSL card seems to have been sent around 1916, so quite a long ways away, or a long ways in the past, better than 100 years. People who listened to shortwave radio stations would send in a reception card to a radio station, and they became more frequent, or as they became more frequently, the station would in turn respond with a confirmation card saying, thanks for the reception card. This practice would later be adopted by the ham radio community around 1919 or so, and standardized to show things like call sign, frequency or band, date, time, mode, etc. The QSL cards, they're really, some people have just a standard plain Jane, a postcard size QSL card that has, maybe their call sign or something on it, and the information you need: call sign, frequency, band, mode, date, etc. Some people, on the other hand, go all out, and they actually make, maybe like a picture of them sitting in front of their ham station, or their view from their back deck, or sitting on the beach or something like that. and they actually go all out on like a full color front, and on the back it'll have all the information. So that's kind of cool too, and it makes for a very unique QSL card. And if you have QSL cards, I would love to see them. Please, I think what I'll do is I'll put in the post on Facebook. I think I'm going to put a post in there and share your QSL cards with me. I would love to see what your QSL card looks like if you have one. I had one. I don't know what happened to it. It's been a long time. I haven't been on HF very much, and I don't get a lot of ham radio talking done, unfortunately. I'm trying. I'm working on it. I have a computer, and I have my rig blaster, and I'm going to hopefully start doing some digital stuff. But unfortunately, my computer hadn't been able to start up here the past couple weeks. It's frustrating, technology these days. So, what exactly does a QSL look like? We kind of touched on a little bit on the uniqueness and stuff like that, and it really varies from person to person. The major thing about it is they should be a minimum of like 3.5 by 5.5 inches, or 140 by 90 millimeters if you use the metric system. And they need to typically have the date and time of contact, the frequency or band the contact was made on, both the sending and receiving station call sign, mode, power used, etc. That's basically the things that you need to have on there. Other than that, you can have pretty much whatever you want. Like I said, you have pictures of your station or whatever, or it can be just as plain as you want. If you want just a plain white 3x5 index card and have your call sign in big letters and the other information on there, then, hey, if that's what you want, by all means. So while we're actually on this topic of QSL cards and what they look like, I actually do have a list of people that actually make QSL cards that you can buy from. And one of them it's like the number one ranked on Google when you search for QSL cards is the WB3IHF QSL cards. And he has other stuff other than just QSL cards. You can get mouse pads and stickers and desk plates and coffee mugs and all kinds of things on there that you can get. But the reason I mentioned this is because I made contact with KB3IHF, and he's agreed to allow me to become an affiliate for his program. So if you need QSL cards, go over to his website. There is a link in the show notes, and go over there and order you some. And that will provide me a marketing fee, if you will, and help me out with this podcast. So if you need QSL cards, buy through him, and make sure that you tell him that you heard from him on the Everything Ham Radio podcast, so I will get that affiliate commission. Okay, so let's talk about QSL bureaus. Now, what is a QSL bureau? Most of the time, when you are trying to send a QSL card to, say, like a foreign country or something, you're not always going to have their actual address, right? Or maybe you do, but it's going to cost bukus of money. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it takes a lot of money, especially sending international. And what you can do, instead of sending it directly to the person, is you can send it to the QSL bureau of that country. And they will, in turn, once they get, say, 10 QSL cards or something, they'll send it on to the person. So you're not out as much money, and they're not out as much money, or the collective group of people is not out as much money getting it to the person. And they can do just the opposite from that person. They can send their cards in one bundle to a QSL bureau, and they'll in turn mail it out to each individual person or their QSL bureau, and it'll be forwarded on to that. Now, the bad part about that is that it's going to take a whole lot longer than the standard mail time. If say it takes 2 weeks to get to somebody over in Great Britain or something like that from the United States, and if you send it to the QSL bureau instead, it might be 2 months before that person gets it. So, weigh your options carefully. If you want to send it directly and you want to pay the extra money, then by all means, they'll get it a whole lot faster and maybe send you one back. If you go through the bureaus, it could be 6 months before you hear back from them. But either way you decide, it's entirely up to you. And I have included a link in the show notes to a list of all the QSL bureaus that there are. So make sure you check that out if you're going to be doing any type of QSL to another country. So we've talked about paper QSL, so let's talk about the electronic ones. And actually, before we do that, let's take a quick break. I would really like to thank my sponsor of this podcast, West Mountain Radio. For those of you who don't know who they are, they make some really awesome equipment that I've had the pleasure of using for about 15 years or so. They make several pieces of equipment, things like a rig blaster, a rig runner, and especially these neat little things called a DC-to-go box. Now, I've talked about the rig blaster in a couple past episodes, and I've talked about the rig runner several times, especially back in the mobile installation episode. But today I really wanted to tell you about the DC-to-go boxes. These are very neat cases that you put a battery in to protect your station floor or the ground or whatever from an unfortunate battery accident. However, there is so much more to these as well. These boxes have a Super Power Gate PG40 and a Rig Runner 4007U or a 4008 built into them as well. And these are just the two that I'm telling you all about. You can custom build one. They have some others as well, but these are the ones I want to tell you about. So the Power Gate provides you an uninterruptible power source. In case you lose AC power, it'll automatically switch over to the battery that's in the box. These things are a perfect solution for a repeater backup or an event like, field day or winter field day or QSO parties or whatever. And it's great for your house station as well. You lose power, it switches automatically over to battery backup, and you're still up and running, running your net or talking to your friends, okay? Also on these DC-to-go boxes is the Rig Runner. Now there's a Rig Runner 4008, which provides 40 amps of DC power over 8 slots. And each one of these slots are fused. The 4007U also gives you 40 amps across 7 slots, but it has some extra features on it as well. So if you need that extra slot, if you need that extra, the 8th slot, then go with the 4008. But if you don't need 8 slots, if you only need 7 or 5 or 2 or whatever, I highly recommend you go with the 4007U. And here's the reason. It has some extra features on it that the 4008 doesn't have. It has a digital load meter. It has a USB charging port, as well as a solid state push button on-off switch and automatic shutoff for high and low voltages. How can you not beat that? I mean, that thing is really awesome. Both these things are mounted to the side of the battery box. All you have to do is drop a battery inside, hook up the leads, and you're ready to go. Now, just these two here that I'm telling you about, the one that comes with the 4008, the Rig Runner 4008, $250, $249.95 to be exact. The 4007U, a measly $20 more, $269.95. How can you not just, want to go out and buy one? I want to go out and buy one, and I think I might actually. But if these are not to your liking, you can custom make your own. Or there's a couple of them that are maybe a little cheaper or more expensive, whichever way you want to go, that you can get. There is links in the show notes of today's episode that'll take you directly to both of these things and to the custom make your own one as well. But here's the thing, okay? Go to everythinghamradio.com/WMR. If you go on there, you'll see a code that you can put in at checkout when you buy something, and you'll get a free USB digital load meter. Yeah, free. So go to there. Go everythinghamradio.com/WMR, West Mountain Radio at WMR. Get that code, find what you want, buy it, put that code in at checkout, and you'll get your free USB digital load meter. How can you not want to do that? So thank you very much for West Mountain Radio again for your sponsorship of this podcast. All right, so let's talk some more about QSL cards, shall we? We're actually going to switch gears a little bit from the paper QSL cards to the electronic version of them. Nowadays everything is going electronic. Everything is going electrical. Everything is going on the internet. Everything is going digital. It's the time that we live in. And the same holds true to QSL cards, or at least what QSL cards mean. An electronic QSL service basically does the same thing as what a QSL card does, but it does it without you and the other person that you make contact with having to mail anything via snail mail. It's all done electronically. Now, there's three major things, basically two major things, but I'm going to include the third one just for giggles, I guess you could say. The first one is probably the biggest one, and that's the ARRL Logbook of the World. Now, if you're not a member of the Logbook of the World yet, check out their quick start page for instructions on how to get started. It is kind of lengthy. You actually have to download a program and request a card, and they send you a card in the mail with the code on it, and you have to go back in and put that code in, and it gives you a code to put in your computer, and then you can actually start putting it on the Logbook of the World. So it's kind of a lengthy setup fee. It's going to take you a couple weeks or so to actually do, or maybe at least a week. I've actually requested mine yesterday, day before yesterday, something like that. So hopefully by the end of the week, I'll have my card and I can get mine set up, and I'll probably do something about it, how to do it a little later. But if you are a ham and you live in the U.S. and you want to go after any award that's given by the ARRL, then you're going to have to use the Logbook of the World, unfortunately. Once you have the account, logging programs will automatically upload any QSOs that you make to Logbook of the World. So, once you're set up, you're golden pretty much. And these are things like the Worked All States, Worked All Continents, the DXCC program, and all the other awards that the ARRL provides, and also some of the other awards as well. Some private, I say private, but some of the other contest or award things or something like that will use Logbook of the World as well. The next one is the EQSL.cc. It's super easy to register for. It took me about, 10-15 minutes or so to get my thing set up. You will have to pay a $12 a year fee in order to get any awards through the EQSL program. Once you have an account set up there, you can, the logging programs typically will automatically upload your QSOs to make those matches, so to speak. And like I said earlier, you can put a digital format of your QSL card, so when you make contact with somebody, they can print it out and have a hard copy if they want. Now, the third one we're going to talk about is, like I said, it's not really a log thing per se, and that's QRZ.com. If you go on there, you can actually, you look up somebody, and it actually has a logbook portion, the logbook tab that you can go to, and say that you made contact with this person. However, it's not really, you can't cross-reference contacts. You can't really prove that you actually made contact with it. Of course, I guess you really can't do it on Logbook of the World or EQSL either. But QR said it is, but it really isn't. So that's why I say it's really not, but I went ahead and included it anyways. So the last thing that I wanted to say again, if you are in need of QSL cards, I found a couple places you can buy them from. Like I said, the first one is the WB3IHF QSL cards site. And if you buy through them, make sure that you mention you heard from them on the Everything Ham Radio podcast, and I will get a small advertising fee or an affiliate fee for your purchase. And I thank you very much, and that will help support this podcast. There's also cheap QSL cards and a custom QSL cards by K4JSG. I haven't used either one of these, the last two. I did order my original ones from KB3IHF several years ago. So make sure that you if you need some QSL cards, get them. And here's 3 things, And like I said, the KB3IHF was #1 ranked on Google when you type in QSL cards. So really awesome guy. He has a lot of stuff on there. Like I said, he's got mouse pads and coffee cups and all sorts of things other than just QSL cards. So make sure you head on over there if you want some QSL cards or some other kind of ham radio gear, memorability type thing. Yeah, that word. So that pretty much wraps it up on QSL cards. Again, I am going to put a post in my Facebook group. So if you are not a member of the group, make sure that you sign up to be a member. Again, that is at at facebook.com/groups/everythingham radio. I want to see your QSL cards. I want to see what your things look like. Show me what they look like. Post a picture on the group post, and yeah. So please do, please do that, and I will share it on the Facebook page as well. But please go over to the group and sign up for that. And that pretty much wraps it up. Let's talk about some blog posts that I found this week. So I found a couple really neat blog posts that I felt like sharing. And with this segment, I'm going to start doing it, I think, with every episode, like I mentioned in the last episode. When I find a really neat blog post or YouTube video or podcast episode or something like that, I'm going to share it. Because, as a amateur radio operator, we're a community. And helping share other people's ideas and blog posts and YouTube videos and stuff like that, it helps the community. So I think that's what I'm going to start doing. So the first one, I got a couple of them actually want to talk to y'all about this episode. The first one, I saw a video today from Robert, K6UDA, and he has a YouTube channel, and it is K6UDA Radio. It's Elmer with an Attitude is the name of his channel. In the video that I saw, he explains how he sold his RV and bought a new to him one. And we'll be shooting videos of the installation of all his ham gear as he does it. And the current RV that he has, he actually had it set up before he had his YouTube channel, so he didn't have a way to do that. But with his new gear, with his new RV, he's actually going to help shoot videos of how he does stuff and how he installs stuff. So if you're looking for something like that, there you go. Neat little channel. There is a link in the show notes. Also in his video, he talks about a upcoming trip that he's taking to the Bahamas, San Salvador Island to be exact, where he'll be doing some scuba diving. But while he's there, he's going to be operating as a DX station, and he's going to be there from March 11th to March 17th, and going to be operating as Charlie 6 Alpha Kilo Alpha. So, if you are looking for San Salvador Island in the Bahamas, you might check out his YouTube page for more information on when he's actually going to be there. And I've actually embedded the video that I'm talking about in the show notes of today's episode. Next, I want to talk about this last episode of the Amateur Radio Roundtable. If you haven't seen it, like I said, it airs every Tuesday, and I believe it's at 8 o'clock. It might be 9 o'clock Central Time, and it's live. And it's typically about 2 hours. They have like an hour and a half of the topic that they're covering, and then they have like the last half hour or so of just kind of a rag chew session. And they also do like pictures of ham stations that people have sent in, and so on and so forth. This past week, this episode will go out on the 9th. On the 7th, actually, when I'm recording this, is actually going on right now, if I'm not mistaken. They are talking to Glenn Papile, KW5GP, who is the author of the Arduino for Ham Radio and the High-Speed Multimedia for Amateur Radio. He's written a new book, and they're going to be talking about this book. And I kind of wish I could have seen this episode to find out what that book is called. I have the High-Speed Multimedia for Amateur Radio, and it's talking about broadband hamnet, basically, or mesh networking for amateur radio. But he also has the Arduino for ham radio book that I would be interested in getting my hands on. So check that out. Look, you can go on YouTube, or you can go on the w5kub.com website and look at previous episodes as well. So since this is actually after this one, I highly recommend you go back and watch this one. I know I'm going to. The last thing that I want to mention is my good buddy Kale over at Ham Radio 360. I'm actually halfway through listening to his latest podcast episode, and it's kind of a recap of APRS. A couple weeks ago, he did one. I did an interview with a gentleman. I don't remember his call sign off the top of my head, and I actually don't even have it in my notes right now because I just started listening to it today. But it's about a 2-hour long episode, and he answers questions that his listeners sent in about APRS, and he actually got the person that he interviewed back on to answer these questions. And like I said, I'm about halfway through, and the only reason that I didn't finish it is because my wife showed up, and we had to go driving, and she doesn't like listening to podcasts, so I'm going to be listening to it probably tomorrow and finishing that up. But I highly recommend you listen if that's, you can find that at hamradio360.com, and it's right there at the top of the page, or you can search for it on iTunes as well. Those are the 3 things that I found this week, so make sure you check those out. Again, YouTube channel, K6UDA Radio, Elmer with an Attitude, and that's Robert, talking about his RV upcoming amateur radio installation. The Amateur Radio Roundtable, that is going to be talking with Glenn Papile, KW5GP, in the latest episode. And, of course, the Ham Radio 360 podcast, my good buddy Kale, talking about APRS. All right, so let's move on to upcoming events. All right, so for the events for this next 2 weeks, all the times that I'm going to be saying are in Zulu or UTC time, if I can talk. So make sure you adjust accordingly. Okay, here we go. From March 11th at 1000 hours to March 12th at 1000 hours is the SARL VHF UHF Analog Digital Contest. And March 11th through 1200 to March 12th at 1200 is the South American 10-meter contest. March 11th from 12 to March 12th at 12, again, is the F9AA Cup on the single sideband. And March 11th at 1200 hours to March 12th at 2400 hours is the SKCC Weekend Sprintathon. March 11th from 1500 hours to 200 hours on the 12th, followed by 1400 hours to 2000 hours is the Oklahoma QSL Party, my neighbors to the north. Let's see, we got a lot on March 11th. March 11th from 1500 to the 12th to 1500 is the Stu Perry Top Band Challenge. From 1600 to 1600 on the 12th is the EA PSK 63 contest. The 11th from 1800 to the 12th at 1800 is the QCWA QSO Party. The 11th from 1800 hours to the 12th at 5:59 is the Tesla Memorial HF CW contest. The 11th from 1900 hours to the 12th at 1900 hours is the Idaho QSO Party. March 11th from 2000 hours to 23:59 is the QRP ARCI Spring Thaw SSB Sprint. March 12th from 0 hours to 400 hours is the North American Sprint for RTTY. March 12th from 1800 hours to 2200 hours is the WAB 3.5 MHz phone. March 12th from 1800 hours to the 13th at 100 hours is the Wisconsin QSO Party. March 18th from 200 hours to the 20th at 200 hours is the BARTG HF RTTY contest. The 18th from 1200 hours to the 19th at 1200 hours is the Russian DX contest. The 18th from 1400 to 200 hours on the 19th and 1200 to 2400 hours on the 19th is the Virginia QSO Party. The 18th from 1400 hours to the 19th at 200 hours is the Louisiana QSO Party. We have a lot of QSO parties this weekend, the next 2 weekends. March 18th from 2000 hours to 21:59 is the Feld Hell Sprint. March 20th from 200 hours to 400 hours is the Run for the Bacon QRP contest. March 21st from 1700 hours to 1700 hours on the 22nd. And also March 25th from 1700 hours to 1700 hours on the 26th, so 2 weekends in a row there, is the Clara CLARA Shatter Party. And last but not least, March 22nd from 0 hours to 200 hours is the SKCC Sprint. All the information can be found in the show notes of today's episode. Again, that's everythinghamradio.com/podcast/59. All the information was taken from the WA7BNM contest calendar, which can be found in a link in the show notes. So make sure and check that out, y'all. Let's talk about some hamfests. Alrighty, so first up on the 10th is this coming weekend. We have the Charlotte Hamfest in Concord, North Carolina. We have the Louisiana State Convention in Rainy, Louisiana. On the 11th, we have the Cherryville Hamfest and Technical Expo in Annandale, New Jersey. Amateur Radio Equipment Auction in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Amateur Radio and Electronics Hamfest in Chicopee, Maine. Charlotte County Hamfest in Punta Gorda, Florida. Ham Expo in Belton, right down the road from me this weekend. I wish I didn't have to work. The Lowell Amateur Radio Youth Club Hamfest in Lowell, Michigan. Mike and Key ARC Electronics Show in Puyallup, Wisconsin, I guess is how that's pronounced, maybe. The MTARS Tullahoma Hamfest in Tullahoma, Tennessee. The Nebraska State Convention Lincoln Amateur Radio Club Hamfest in Lincoln, Nebraska. And the Terre Haute maybe Hamfest in Brazil, Indiana. On the 12th, which is this coming Sunday, is the BARA Annual Auction in Township of Washington, New Jersey. Next weekend, the 17th, we have the Fort Walton Beach Hamfest 2017 in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. On the 18th, we have HamX 2017 in Clayton, Ontario. We have Hamfest 2017 in Loomis, California. The Mahasika Hams Swap Meet in Oskaloosa, Iowa. Michigan Crossroad Hamfest and Radio Swag in Kalamazoo Township, Michigan. Microham's Digital Conference 2017 Operating Specialty Convention in Redmond, Washington. The MOVARC Hamfest in Gallipolis, Ohio. Scottsdale Spring Hamfest in Scottsdale, Arizona. The Stewart Hamfest in Stewart, Florida. Swap Fest in Georgetown, Texas. The Great Southern Hamfest in Thomasville, Georgia. And the West Texas Section Convention in Midland, Texas. On the 19th is the CVRC Hamfest in Henniker, New Hampshire. Hamfest 2017 in Jefferson, Wisconsin. Southington, Connecticut Amateur Radio Association Flea Market in Southington, Connecticut. The Toledo Mobile Radio Association Hamfest and Computer Fair in Perrysburg, Ohio. And last but not least, Winterfest in Annandale, Virginia. All the information on these Hamfests was taken from the ARRL Hamfest calendar that you can find a link to in the show notes of today's episode. All right, let's talk about some news now, shall we? So the news for this week, as far as the ARRL newsfeed goes, was kind of gloomy. Unfortunately, it was very, very sad. There was a couple episodes or a couple articles that were pretty good news. One of which is the Hamvention's Amateur of the Year was announced. Dayton Hamvention has announced its 2017 award winners for Amateur of the Year, Club of the Year, and Special Achievement. Each year, Hamvention honors radio amateurs who made major contributions to the art and science of amateur radio. For the Amateur Radio of the Year is the International Space Station International Chair Frank Bauer, KA3HDO. He has been the driving force behind the program since its inception. He also serves as ANSAT-NA Vice President for Human Spaceflight. In the 1990s, Bauer proposed an experiment to have high Earth orbit AMSAT Phase 3D satellite AO-40 measure the signal strength of the GPS satellite constellation. The AO-40 experiment subsequently has been cited often in aerospace literature, as it remains the most comprehensive above-the-constellation data source for nearly a decade, and led to changes in the system's specifications and applications. The result of the AO-40 experiment jump started a game-changing transformation in navigation at HEO and GEO altitudes, enabling new and exciting missions in these orbits. A radio amateur since 1974, Bauer holds bachelor's and master's degree in aeronautics and astronautics from Purdue University. His career in aerospace spans 4 decades at NASA and within private industry. In 1983, in preparation for a space mission of Owen Garrett W5LFL, Bauer was responsible for setting up and operating the worldwide retransmission of the Space Shuttle air-to-ground communications via Goddard Amateur Radio Club Station WA3NAN. This initiative provided a critical conduit of information to hams attempting to contact ham astronauts in the pre-internet era. The Club of the Year was announced. It is the Clark County Amateur Radio Club. It was established in 1930, and the club was served. That doesn't make any sense. It serves the Southwest Washington and Northwest Oregon. It has been a ARRL affiliate club since 1932 and is a ARRL special service club. The club is active in community service under the club's W7AIA call sign. CCARC members participate in 8 public service activities last year, running up more than 1,500 hours of volunteer service. The club has an active and growing youth program. It supports the Boy Scouts of America and sponsors a jamboree on the air station in 2016. The club also is working to establish a Communications Explorer post in Vancouver, Washington, as well as to license students within the local trade schools. In 2016, CCARC licensed 95 new hams. Great job, y'all. It periodically holds ham basic class for new licensees and offer a dynamic Elmer's program, which is very key to keeping those new hams. It also holds mostly interest meetings such as a digital group, an open forum to discover and explore many types of digital modes. This meeting typically draws hams from other areas. The CCARC created the pioneering iWarn program to provide visual situation reports to emergency managers. This program encourages all hams in the county to report what they see, where they are in a disaster. And last but not least is the Special Achievement Award. This goes to S. Ram Mahan, VU2NYH. He will receive the Hamvention's 2017 Special Achievement Award. Mahan is the Executive Vice Chairman and Director of the National Institute of Amateur Radio in Hyderabad, India. Licensed since 1988, he has conducted a number of experiments on HF and VHF communications equipment and carried out propagations tests, organizing training programs, de-expeditions, workshops, and general amateur radio activities, including public service communications. As Chief Investigator for the Department of Information Technology, Government of India funded pilot projects, he has successfully implemented programs on digital connectivity to urban, rural, remote areas through amateur radio. Study on propagation conditions in coastal areas and advanced digital amateur radio communications network. Mahan has led many emergency communications operations, including the Nepal earthquake in 2015, the Cyclone Hud in 2014, the Uttarakhand flood in 2013, 2009 Cyclone Isla disaster in West Bengal, the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2014, the Jahert earthquake in 2011 and the Orisha super cyclone in 1999. I know that I actually butchered all those names, I'm sure. The Technical Achievement Award was given to Rob Brownstein, K6RB. He was licensed in 1958 at the age of 11. Brownstein could hardly wait to upgrade to General and get on the phone, but he soon discovered that he enjoyed operating CW much more. So he puts his microphone aside and never looked back. In January 2010, Brownstein was among about a dozen hams on several continents who founded the CW Operators Club. In 2012, he was elected president of CW Ops and served 2 consecutive terms. During his tenure as president, Brownstein encouraged and participated in all aspects of the club, from rag chewing to contesting to mentoring. Through CW Academy, began in earnest in 2012. Since then, it has mentored more than 800 radio amateurs through its beginning, intermediate, and advanced CW courses. Official awards presentation will take place at Hamvention May 19th through 21st at the Greene County Fairgrounds and Expo Center in Xenia, Ohio. Are you heading to Hamfest this year or Hamvention this year? Again, I really wish I could go, but it's just such a long ways away. Heck, I would just love to go to my local one. That's just like right up the road. It's going to be forever before I get to Hamvention. One of these days, though, guys, I promise I will meet a whole bunch of y'all at Hamvention. So be on the lookout. Maybe next year we can get like a ham radio podcast group together or something like that and get a booth at Hamvention. That would be kind of cool. Kale and the guys over at Linux and the Ham Shack, Amateur Radio Roundtable host, all the podcast, the Amateur Radio podcast. That would be kind of cool to get together and have one table at Hamvention. Yeah, that would be cool. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, no, that doesn't wrap it up. That wraps up that story. But I mentioned that the news feed was very depressing or very sad. And the reason being is because just on the first page of the news, there's 3 hams that have gone SK. Hurricane Watch Net Pioneer Don K, K0IND, went SK on March 1st. Former business news broadcaster Paul Kangas, W4LAA, went SK on February 28th. And former White House cybersecurity advisor Howard Smith, W7HAS, went SK on March 2nd. So prayers to all the families of those 3 hams that unfortunately are no longer with us. And I'm sure there's probably others out there as well. So prayers to each one of y'all. We are thinking about you. And I hope that you can get through it. That, my friends, wraps up the episode. Alright, so like I said, y'all, that pretty much does it for this episode. It's a little bit shorter than I have been doing in the past, but unfortunately I have 2 small kids, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old that's going to have tubes in their ears tomorrow. Well, it'll actually be yesterday by the time this goes live, but we have to be the doctor at the hospital like 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's already after 10 o'clock here, so it's time for me to go to bed. And I thank each and every one of y'all for stopping by. Please pray for me because I'm going to have 2 kids that have surgery and being put under and all that good stuff tomorrow or yesterday. So pray for me, please. If you like what you heard here on my podcast, please share it with your friends. Let them know that you heard about it on everythinghamradio.com. And if you need QSL cards, make sure that you go over to KB3IHF QSL Cards and purchase from him. Make sure that you mention that you heard of him on the amateur. Good gravy! I cannot talk, y'all. On the Everything Ham Radio podcast, and I will get a affiliate fee for that. So that will help support this podcast. If you would like to further support the podcast, there are several ways you can do it. You can make a one-time donation through PayPal, which you can find a button on the bottom of the show notes to do that with. You can become a monthly contributor through Patreon, or you can simply shop on Amazon using my affiliate link. Information on all those can be found on my support page at everythinghamradio.com/support. If you have not already done so, please subscribe to my email list. I send out an email whenever I publish a new podcast episode or a new blog post, which are few and far between anymore, but that's pretty much all that I use it for. Special announcements every now and then. So make sure that if you want to, you head on over and subscribe. You can find, again, on the show notes, or you can go to everythinghamradio.com/subscribe. Again, follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/everythinghamradio. The group is at facebook.com/groups/everythinghamradio. And remember, I will be posting a question on my group about your QSL cards, what your QSL cards look like. Please share a picture of them with me and let me know what they are. You can follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/everythinghamradio, which last week I said that I was going to try and get a video up with more than just my logo on it. Unfortunately, I tried and I tried and I tried. I worked for about half a day trying to get the audio to sync with the video, and it just wanted nothing of it. So I'm going to have to look further into how exactly to do that before I try that again. So it's just back to the logo, unfortunately, with my audio in the background. And last but not least, you can follow me on Twitter, which is probably where I'm most active on, at K5CLM. Links to all these can be found on my website under social in the menu bar. And I guess that pretty much wraps it up. Again, thank you for listening. You guys and gals are just awesome. Y'all really are. So I guess until next time, this is K5CLM signing out. 73, y'all.